After 2 years without touch, the millionaire wins over the black woman in an unexpected night. Victor Langston stood at the edge of his grand ballroom, his heart in his throat. Lavish chandeliers dangled like crystals from another world, casting golden light onto the crowd, swirling in designer gowns and sharp tuxedos. Just 2 years ago, laughter bounced off these walls. Now, there was only the hum of idle chatter and clinking glasses. He hadn't properly touched another human being in all that time. Not since the tragic day 2 years ago when that fateful accident took his wife away. Guilt gnawed at his insides, squeezing his chest tighter with each breath. Someone shouted, interrupting his thoughts. A group of investors, slick and overly interested, approached. They carried shadows with them, ties to deals that dripped black. Victor's pulse quickened as they eyed Luna, the room seeming to constrict around him. "I hear you're making quite the comeback, Langston," one of the men sneered, extending a hand toward Victor. But his eyes lingered on Luna, who stood nearby, unaware of the potential storm swirling around them. Victor tried to mask the rising panic. The weight of his past, the secrets he buried deep, clamored for attention. He stepped protectively closer to Luna, feeling drawn to her spirit, wondering if she could even sense the darkness festering just outside their bubble. "Careful of who you choose to associate with, Victor," another voice whispered, its tone a veiled threat. The atmosphere thickened, tension cutting through the air like a knife. Suddenly, the crystals of the chandelier flickered, as if sensing the shh. Just then, a loud crash erupted behind them. The investors turned, and the elegant world masked in glamour trembled. Murmurs swirled like a haze. "What was that?" a woman gasped. Before Victor could react, Luna boldly moved toward the chaos, her bravery surprising him. He found himself torn. Could he protect her from the spiraling truth that connected them both? Faced with the magnitude of his empire and the guilt that overshadowed his every decision, he realized this evening was no longer just a charity event. It had transformed into a battleground for redemption. As they exchanged furtive glances amidst the unfolding chaos, a shocking revelation struck Victor. They both bore scars of the past, and the threads binding them might unravel everything he had built. Could he dare to hope for a connection amidst this turmoil? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subs. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up, and since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching this? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. As the chaos erupted behind them, Victor's insides twisted with unease. He glanced at Luna, her fiery spirit undeterred by the commotion. She was like a flame in the darkness, pulling him closer with an urgent magnetism. But then, the world outside that moment split apart. A piercing scream cut through the chatter, freezing everyone in place. Victor turned, heart racing. A woman stumbled into the ballroom, her dress torn and her face pale as if she had seen a ghost. "Help, please," she cried, eyes wild. "They're coming! They're coming for him!" Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind racing through trees. The investors exchanged glances, their jovial facade cracking. Victor stepped toward the woman, instinctively protective. Who's coming?" he demanded. She said she was his wife." Her voice trembled, panic lacing every syllable. "She thinks he's dead. She's looking for Victor Langston." A heavy silence fell, overshadowed by shifting murmurs. Victor's breath caught in his throat. His late wife? The one who had perished in that tragic accident. What was this woman talking about? Luna's hand slipped into his, grounding him. He felt her heartbeat racing, mirroring his own. "Victor, what's this about?" she asked, confusion lacing her voice. Suddenly, the woman pointed a shaky finger straight at him. You must help her. She has the truth." Desperation laced her tone, a plea that echoed in the cavernous room. Victor stumbled back a step, his head spinning. The truth? What truth? All the skeletons he'd buried. Every secret he'd crafted to shield himself from the past? Would it come crashing down around him at the worst possible moment? At that moment, the ballroom doors flew open and a figure stepped in. The room gasped, a collective intake of breath. It was a woman, strong, elegant, clad in a dark outfit, a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. Her hair framed her face just right, and Victor's heart was a drum in his chest. "Mia," he whispered in disbelief, recognizing the woman he thought he'd lost forever. "Victor," she said softly, yet her eyes burned with intensity. "You don't understand what you've done." Confusion twisted in Victor's stomach. "I thought you were gone." It tumbled out before he could stop it. "How are you here?" "I was never dead," she replied, her voice steady but edged with a ferocity he hadn't heard in years. "I faked my death to escape the mess you created." Whispers of shock rippled through the crowd. Victor's mind raced. She had been alive this whole time? The weight of guilt he bore was suddenly clouded by layers of betrayal and disbelief. And here was Luna, still holding his hand tightly, looking at him with questions swirling in her gaze. "I thought you were dead." He struggled to wrap his mind around this revelation, each word clawing at his stability. Mia stepped forward, eyes darting to Luna, then back to Victor. "And now you must choose, this one or your past. It's all connected." The room fell silent, tension thick enough to slice through. Victor's heart raced. The stakes were higher than he could have ever imagined. He had been living a lie, and now a darker truth loomed over him. He looked from Mia back to Luna, who met his gaze with a mixture of fear and defiance. "Victor, you need to explain," she urged, her voice breaking through the chaos swirling in his mind. But how could he? How could he tell her that the web he'd woven had suddenly unraveled, revealing the sharp edges he feared all along? Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the ballroom lights flickered, a palpable chill sweeping through. Murmurs of confusion and concern flickered through the guests. "What's happening?" someone asked. And Victor realized that whatever came next, nothing would be the same. He was standing at the edge of a precipice, and the ground beneath him was collapsing. The truth was ready to engulf them all. Victor froze, heart pounding against his ribs. Mia stood there, a storm brewing in her gaze, and all the air in the room felt heavy. Luna gripped his hand tighter, confusion and fear etched in he. "Victor, what's happening?" Luna's voice trembled, but he couldn't pull his gaze from Mia. Time felt muddled, his past and present colliding like two freight trains. "You need to explain!" But just then, the lights flickered violently again, plunging the ballroom into darkness for an agonizing second. Gasps formed a ripple through the crowd, followed by frantic whispers. Then, bam! The lights blared back on, revealing chaos erupting before them. Screams sliced through the air as another figure burst into the room. A man, wild-eyed and panting, stumbled to the front. "Victor, you need to listen! They're coming!" His voice cracked, and all eyes turned on him. There was an urgency in his tone that sent chills down Victor's spine. Luna's breath caught in her throat, and Victor felt the world tilt. "Who are you?" he demanded, standing protectively in front of Luna, shielding her from the chaos. "Your brother," the man gasped, his face grotesquely familiar. Victor's stomach dropped. "I'm Daniel. I thought you were dead too." The room erupted in stunned silence, mouths agape. Daniel? The brother Victor had lost years ago in a tragic accident? Before Mia? Before all the pain? How? How could he be standing here breathing? Daniel? Victor's voice barely made it out. It can't be you. You died! But I didn't. I survived, Victor. I was forced to disappear. Panic danced across Daniel's face, and the nervous energy surged. You're in danger. It's all connected. They've been watching you, both of you. Luna stepped closer, squeezing Victor's hand, fear thickening the air around them. What do you mean? She looked between the two brothers, confusion pulling at her. The accident, Daniel started, voice tight. It wasn't an accident. They staged everything. Mia, they wanted to erase us. Whoever orchestrated it wants Victor's empire. And they know about you, Luna. Victor's heart thudded painfully. What are you talking about? His mind raced, fraying at the seams. Who wants what? This doesn't make sense. The investors. Daniel's eyes darted around the room, narrowing as if they were wolves disguised in suits. They're part of it. They're setting a trap. You must believe me. Then, in a flash, Victor remembered the whispers, the threats. Everything that had felt so much like a nightmare creaked into terrifying clarity. But Mia, you faked your death. Why? Mia clenched her jaw, stepping forward. To protect you, Victor. You have no idea what's really at risk. Suddenly, the room quaked with a deafening sound. The ground rumbled beneath them, and a projector crashed from the ceiling, erupting glass everywhere. The crowd screamed in chaos, scattering, seeking refuge. Amidst the destruction, Daniel grabbed Victor's arm. We don't have time. We need to get out of here. No, Victor pulled back. He had so many questions, so many pieces of a puzzle that was never meant to fit. But just as he was about to say more, the door burst open again. 3 men in dark suits stormed through. Victor Langston, one bellowed, voice booming like thunder. You're under arrest. The entire room was frozen, the chaos around them blurring into murmurs of confusion and disbelief. Victor felt the walls closing in, his visions of redemption swirling into a storm of dread. In that instant, everything unraveled. The truth, layered, twisted, was crumbling at his feet. As strong hands grabbed him, Victor looked back at Luna. Hope and terror tangled in her expression. Victor, she cried out, but he couldn't reach her. And in that final moment, as darkness swallowed him whole, something primal cried out from the depths of his being. What had he stumbled into? What had he truly lost? Victor felt the firm grip of the officers pulling him back, the panic rising in his chest. He turned one last time to Luna, desperation etched in his features, but her eyes were wide, filled with fear and confusion. They're wrong, Luna. You have to believe me, he shouted. But the world was blurring around him, the chaos engulfing him whole. Mia, he yelled, grappling to make sense of it all. What the hell is going on? But Mia stepped back, her expression now laced with something Victor couldn't decipher. Anger? Fear? A vindictive pleasure? The glow of the chandelier flickered again, creating an eerie spotlight on the stillness that had fallen. Victor, she shouted, her voice cutting through again. You need to listen. You're too far in. They've planned every step of this. Every single one. Every step? Daniel echoed, eyes darting nervously around the room. What do you mean? What the hell do they want? Just then, with a suddenness that rocked Victor to his core, the doors blew open again. Another figure stumbled in. This one, a man Victor didn't recognize. But the moment their eyes met, the recognition hit like a lightning bolt. Victor, get out! They're here! The man's voice echoed, commanding and frantic. But what truly stopped Victor in his tracks was the eerie familiarity in his face. It mirrored his own, a younger version, but unmistakably him. The same sharp jawline, the same beige eyes filled with urgent panic. Who are you? Victor breathed in disbelief, his heart pounding. I'm you, the man yelled, from a past you chose to forget, the one you left behind. Stunned, silence swallowed the room. Luna's grip loosened as she stepped back, the world shrinking to just Victor and this implausible replica of himself. The man continued, voice breaking. "You need to listen. They've manipulated everything. You only fought, you lost your wife and brother. They orchestrated their deaths, and yours." "Stop." Victor's voice trembled, filled with raw anguish, as the pieces of the puzzle twisted and warped, becoming a grim tapestry of betrayal. "What are you saying? They're here to erase you, to take everything. I can help you if you let me," the man pleaded, desperation coating every word. "Why should I trust you?" Victor responded, voice barely above a whisper. "Because I am you, Victor. Every mistake you made, every choice you thought was right, led you here. They've been pulling the strings, manipulating you, and now they want you gone for good." The urgency in his voice resonated and echoed through the room. Suddenly, the investors began to shift. The air grew dense, and Victor could feel every heartbeat thickening the weight around him. They were no longer just spectators. They were predators, ready to pounce. "We need to go," Daniel urged, and Luna looked at Victor, her wide eyes pleading. "We need to understand this, right now." Before Victor could respond, sirens blared outside, a shocking reminder that the outside world was closing in. The ballroom descended back into chaos. People screamed, scrambling for the exits, while Victor's mind spiraled. "What are you waiting for?" the younger Victor shouted urgently. "You have to make a choice, for your life and for hers." In that moment, everything crashed together. The ghosts of losses, the pain of lies, and the looming threat of an end. Each choice echoed loudly in his mind. The weight of time pressed down, tightening like a vice around his chest. "Victor!" Luna called again, fear tinged with something deeper. Maybe love, maybe understanding, but raw and unfiltered. "Don't let them take you!" And with everything spiraling in chaotic motion, Victor knew that whatever choice he made would change everything. The truth was alive, tangled in shadows, and as he stood at the edge, the ground trembling beneath him, he faced the greatest question of all. Who was he really? As the sirens roared louder, drowning out the screams, Victor felt a spark of defiance rise within him. He took a jagged breath, glancing from Luna to his doppelganger, his brother, and finally facing Mia, with the chaos fueling a new fire. "Let's end this," he finally said, conviction filling his voice as a new resolve settled in. "Let's end this," he said, voice strong, clenching his fists to steady himself. But inside, doubt churned with fear. Around them, the air buzzed, crackling with tension. The crowd swirled in panic, and every face wore a mask of horror. "Victor!" Luna shouted, eyes wide with worry. "What are we going to do?" Suddenly, the younger Victor stepped closer. "Trust me, there's more at stake than you realize." At that moment, the crowd erupted, all eyes drawn toward the ballroom doors. A figure burst through, a man Victor didn't recognize. He wore a tattered coat and wild hair, eyes darting as if hunted. He cried, voice frantic. A chilling laugh echoed from the back of the room. Victor turned sharply to see one of the investors, Adrian, now standing tall, a smirk on his lips. "You think you can escape this?" "Adrian!" Victor shouted, adrenaline surging. "What have you done?" The man raised an eyebrow, amusement dancing in his gaze. "You really haven't figured it out, have you?" "Figured what out?" Victor shot back, confusion blurring his focus. He glanced at Luna. She looked terrified, her hands trembling as she watched the unfolding scene. Suddenly, the wild man grabbed Victor's arm, eyes wide like saucers. "Victor, you have to listen. They've manipulated everything, even your own brother." "What do you mean?" Victor snapped, feeling anger rise. Daniel was never your brother, the man whispered, voice breaking. He was your clone. The room fell completely silent. A chill swept through the air, freezing everyone in place. Victor's world tilted on its axis. What? Your father created a way to experiment with genetics, to recreate you. When Daniel died, he was disposed of. But you... The man paused, breathing heavily. They couldn't let you find out. You needed to be the heir without knowing your history. You needed to keep the empire intact. That's why they faked Mia's death too. Victor's chest tightened as every breath became heavier. No, that can't be true. Yes, look behind you, he urged, motioning toward Mia. Victor turned, and the room felt smaller. Mia's expression shifted, a darkness clouding her eyes that he had never seen before. She stepped forward, her voice low and fierce. It's true, Victor. Your father was a monster. You are a product of his twisted experiments. Everything has been a lie. The crowd gasped, whispers cascading like an avalanche. Bile rose in Victor's throat as he staggered back, fear curling his fingers. How could you? Mia's gaze hardened, the facade slipping more with each second. I did it to protect you, to protect us. Us? Victor echoed, panic clawing at him. Struggling to find his voice, he looked to Luna, who stood frozen, her face pale as a ghost. Luna, but she didn't meet his gaze. Instead, confusion clouded her expression, replacing the warmth he'd felt. Mia, she spoke softly, voice trembling. You helped Victor this whole time? All to keep him safe, Mia shot back, her tone like ice. We never wanted the Empire. We wanted peace. But it's too late to turn back now. The sirens grew louder outside. The air vibrated with impending danger. Slowly, the facade of his world shattered into jagged pieces around him. The man who burst in lunged toward Victor, grabbing him by the shoulders. You need to leave, now! But before Victor could step away, something shifted behind him. The ballroom doors were forced open once more, and figures swarmed the entrance. Shadows emerged, dark shapes slipping into the golden light. Fear coiled like a snake around Victor's heart. Victor Langston, we're here for the legacy, a voice yelled. Chaos erupted again, the crowd surging, screams piercing the air. As shadows closed in, Victor felt his world collapse in layers, reality blurring at the edges. What do you want? Victor shouted, panic and disbelief flooding his senses. You know what we want, the leader snarled. And time's running out. Hand over the keys, or we take everything. In that moment, a realization crashed through Victor like a wave. If they took everything, it meant losing Luna, losing control, losing everything he thought he knew. And with that, the room began to spin. Victor! Luna cried out, eyes wide with desperation. But just as he opened his mouth to scream, the world around him shattered. The darkness around them twisted, and everything that felt certain slipped away into nothingness. Then came a sound, a deafening blast, a blast that shook the very foundation of the ballroom, uprooting lives and truths in one fell swoop. All Victor could see was the widening terror in Luna's eyes before the chaos stole everything from him, leaving behind only shadows. And questions that would never find answers. Victor felt the world cave in around him as the explosion rocked the room. Dust swirled in a twisting cloud, and screams pierced through the chaos. Everything blurred into confusion. He reached out for Luna, hoping to pull her close, but a wave of people jumped, pushing him away. Victor, here! Luna's voice cut through the din. He spotted her, eyes wide, fear etched across her face. Desperation clawed at his chest. Luna, stay close! He fought through the chaos, but the crowd surged like a tide, separating them more with each frantic movement. Then, just as he was about to break free, a loud crash echoed, and the lights flickered violently again, plunging them into darkness. Panic seeped into Victor's veins. He couldn't breathe. The shadows stretched, twisting shapes dancing in the gloom. "Victor!" he heard Mia's voice, frantic and close. "You need to listen." He turned toward her, but the chaos was like a whirlpool, pulling him further away. "What are you talking about?" he shouted. But soon the darkness was all-consuming. Abruptly, the lights returned, flooding the room with blinding brightness. Everything froze as Victor's eyes landed on a figure standing at the center of the ballroom. A hush fell over the crowd, jaws dropped, and hearts skipped a beat. The man stood tall, soaked in an aura of authority amidst the panic. It was their father, Harold Langston, alive, just as he had been the day the accident changed everything. "Dad?" Victor's voice broke, disbelief clawing up his throat. The old man looked the same as Victor remembered, yet there was something unsettling in his eyes, the kind of darkness that hinted at secrets buried deep. "You thought you could escape this legacy?" Harold's voice was unyielding, a chilling mix of commanding and vindictive. Victor stumbled back, shock washing over him. "But you died. We mourned you. Mia!" He glanced at her, but she stood there, mouth agape, her entire world shattering. "What the hell is happening?" "But you were supposed to stay out of it, Victor," Harold continued, his eyes narrowing. "This was never meant for you. You were meant to follow the path I laid out." The room erupted into whispers, gasps swirling around them like a storm. Victor felt exposed, every secret he had buried clawing its way to the surface. Each betrayal, each loss, flashed before his eyes, pulling him into an abyss of despair. "Get away from him!" Luna shouted suddenly, rushing forward, eyes blazing. She took his hand firmly, a lifeline amid the chaos. "You don't have any power here." Harold smirked, unfazed. "Oh, but I do. You just don't know the truth, Luna. He isn't the hero you think he is, or the victim you believe." "What do you mean?" Luna's voice wavered, confusion and anger curling her features. "What could you possibly—" "He was born from my ambition," Harold's voice rang out, booming through the stunned silence. "Victor was my greatest creation, but just a tool, a means to an end." "No, that can't be true," Victor screamed, but the words felt like ice inside him. Luna turned to Victor, hurt flashing across her face. "What is he talking about, Victor?" The weight of the revelation sank into him, pressing against his chest like a heavy stone. I don't know," but Harold continued with a twisted grin. "Looks like there's more to the story, son. You were never fully human, and neither was Daniel. You both are experiments. Genetic manipulations designed to inherit my empire." Victor's blood ran cold. Each word drove a nail into his sanity. "No, this isn't real." But as the truth crashed over him, something shifted in Luna's expression. The wide eyes filled with a mixture of shock and betrayal. "You lied to me?" A silence enveloped them. The entire room felt suspended in disbelief. Victor's world, everything he loved, teetered on the edge of annihilation. "Luna, I didn't even know," he pleaded. The air thickened with tension. And somewhere in the panic, Victor noticed Daniel, his presence heavy, filled with a weight of sadness. He stepped forward, face pale but resolute. "This was never about you. It was about us, about survival." Victor's heart raced. He glanced at Luna, torn between the horror of truth and the need to hold on to her. But the fear that had ruled his life was now mingling with something deeper, betrayal and despair. "Stop!" Victor shouted, facing his father. "Just stop. What do you want? What will it take to end this?" Harold's eyes gleamed with malicious ambition. To take back what was always mine, your loyalty, everything you've taken from me. And as chaos erupted around them, Victor realized that the storm had only just begun. Everything he thought he knew was crashing down. Betrayal wrapped around him like a shroud as Luna looked at him. The connection once so bright, now flickering uncertainly in the face of an unimaginable truth. The night etched itself into a grim tapestry of despair. How deep did the lies go? And as Victor felt winds of change swirling, one question loomed larger than any other. Who was he truly meant to be? Victor felt the weight of uncertainty press down on him as Harold's words echoed in the hall. Each confession was a shattering blow to his reality. Luna's frightened eyes searched his, hoping for some sort of comfort. The crowd was a blur of shocked faces, frozen in disbelief. "Victor, what's happening?" Luna's voice trembled, pulling him back from the precipice of despair. Suddenly, the wild man who had rushed in before called out, "Victor, you need to react! They're coming for you!" "What do you mean?" Victor asked, anger bubbling inside him as they all hovered on the brink of chaos. But he barely finished that thought when the doors burst open again and the atmosphere shifted. A chilling gust rushed through the ballroom, almost as if the storm had finally arrived. The crowd parted, eyes widening in horror as a figure stepped in, her silhouette framed by the harsh light. It was Elena, the high-powered lawyer from the Langston Empire, a woman Victor had thought was merely another cog in the corporate machine. But the fierceness in her stride held a different kind of power. She stormed into the room, face painted with determination. "Stop this now, Elena." "Oh, but it does. You've played your games for the last time," she replied, standing firm, eyes sharp. "Victor isn't just a pawn, and I'm here to reveal the final piece of this twisted legacy." Victor felt his heart thump painfully in his chest, like the drum roll before a devastating revelation. "What do you mean, Elena? What do you know?" "Everything," she replied, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. "The experiments, the lies, the truth about why Mia had to disappear." As if struck by lightning, Mia stepped back. "Elena, you have no right to." "I have every right," she shot back, voice steady but choking with emotion. "You've been manipulating him for your goals, but he deserves the truth." Victor's breath caught in his throat. The room felt like it was spinning. "What truth? Please, just tell me. I need to know." "There's more," Elena began, steel in her voice. "Something you never thought to question. You aren't just a part of this family's legacy, Victor. You are the key to a greater truth. You were never meant to inherit the Empire. You're meant to destroy it." His body felt cold, as if ice had seeped into his veins. "What are you talking about?" "The day of the accident," she continued, urgency pouring from her. "Your father wasn't just trying to cover up mistakes. He was finding ways to erase you, to erase the proof of his sins, to wipe out the results of his experiments, the ones that made Daniel and you." "What do you mean?" Victor's heart raced as dread settled thick in his chest. "You're saying he wanted to kill me?" "Yes," Elena shouted, her voice trembling with fire. "It's always been about control. The truth, the real truth, is that you and Daniel were created for that purpose. Nothing more, nothing less." The room erupted into shocked gasps, the air turning electric. Victor felt the floor drop out beneath him. "Control over what?" he shouted, desperation clawing at him. "Control over everything." Elena fired back, pushing through to him. "Now that he knows you're aware of the truth, he'll stop at nothing to eliminate you both." The crowd gasped again, confusion turning to fear, and Victor felt a sudden thrum, a sound that vibrated in his bones. Then, without warning, a deafening boom shook the ballroom. The lights flickered as the walls quaked, sending guests scrambling for cover. Victor stumbled, feeling the tremor beneath his feet. Elena shouted, "Stay down!" In the midst of madness, as bits of the ceiling crumbled around them, Victor locked eyes with Luna once more. But just as he thought he'd reach her, the room shifted again. A flash of light burst through the shadows, blinding in its intensity, and when it faded, Victor gasped. The figures standing before him, and the truth they held, started to transform. Elena stepped back, panic coursing through her. "No, this can't be happening. Why are you all acting like this?" Victor demanded. "What's happening?" Then suddenly, Victor's younger counterpart, his doppelganger, took a step forward. "You don't even know who you really are, do you? You weren't just created, you're the salvation meant to break the cycle of pain." Then, before anyone could react, the world tilted once again. Victor's surroundings blurred into a kaleidoscope of memories, a flash of images from his childhood, laughter mingling with cries. He saw moments, pieces of himself he couldn't quite grasp, and then everything shifted. In one catastrophic glance, the lines connecting himself, Mia, Daniel, and Elena twisted under the strain of a terrible truth. "I'm not just part of this," Victor mumbled, feeling his heart pound in his throat. "I am something else." The realization washed over him. He was both captor and captive, creator and creation. The weight of his existence threatened to crush him. But before he could break free from the horror, another thunderous crash echoed through the room. The unyielding truth quickly descended back into chaos, and Victor could only watch as everything changed. Shadows loomed closer, and the concepts of loyalty, love, and betrayal slipped through his fingers, pulling him into darkness. "Victor!" He heard Luna's voice, a fragile thread in the storm, but her image bled away, fading into shadows. With the world crumbling around him, he was left standing on the edge of his truth, a truth he never thought possible. As panic surged, Victor realized that whatever tomorrow held, nothing would ever be the same. The price of uncovering deep legacies was staggering, and the true battle had only just begun. Victor felt the ground shake beneath him as chaos spread like wildfire. "What's happening?" she asked, wide eyes darting around the room. He opened his mouth to answer, but the words got stuck. It was as if the truth was spinning just out of reach. The urgency of the situation pushed against him, pounding in his chest. He tried to articulate the confusion swirling inside, but only managed, I don't know." The younger version of himself, standing defiantly, barked back, "You need to remember, Victor. The past isn't done with you yet." Just then, a loud crash reverberated, and the ballroom door burst open again. Gasps filled the air as a swirl of men in dark suits, faces hidden by shadows, stormed in. The crowd recoiled, pressing back against the walls as Victor's heart raced. "Victor Langston," one of the men shouted, voice booming like thunder. "You've had your time." Before Victor could react, the man lunged forward, grabbing him by the collar. The world around him blurred, and shouted voices mixed in the chaos. He shoved the man away, but the grip remained ironclad, merciless. "You're coming with us." "Leave him alone!" Luna cried out, her voice cracking. But suddenly, the lights flickered again, and Victor felt a shift in the atmosphere. It was like a sharp inhale, followed by an eerie silence, just before the storm broke. Then, an unexpected sound pierced through, a low hum that quickly grew louder. Victor turned, alarm rising within him. The source was a strange device the men carried. A large metallic box, blinked with moving lights and ominous beeps. His pulse raced faster. "What is that?" Elena stepped forward, sweat glistening on her brow. "Victor, get back!" But it was too late. A blinding beam of light shot from the device, illuminating the entire room, cutting through the shadows. The scream of the crowd filled the air as Victor shielded his eyes. He squinted through the brightness, and then everything changed. The light swirled and twisted, creating shapes. Pairing with the chaos, figures began to emerge, but not in the way he expected. Phantom-like images of Mia and Daniel flickered in and out. "Victor!" they called, but their voices distorted, filled with a sense of foreboding. "Run!" shouted the younger Victor, but the warning was lost among the panic. As if on cue, the device pulsed again, and suddenly, it exploded. Dust and smoke filled the ballroom. Faces blurred, and shockwaves darted through the crowd, knocking people off their feet. Victor stumbled, but steadied himself. On instinct, he reached for Luna, and their fingers intertwined, grounding him. But what happened next turned his blood cold. In the cloud of confusion, a figure emerged. Mia. Her face was pale, but something else flickered in her eyes. She stepped closer, a tear streaming down her cheek, and in that moment, the whole world slowed down. "You have to trust me," she shouted over the chaos. Victor's heart dropped as he realized what she was holding in her hand. A small, glinting object, the keys to the Empire, sharp and dangerous. This is what they want. Rage boiled inside him. Confusion crashed against his senses. "Why do you have that?" "Because," her voice trembled as she stepped closer, "because I thought I needed it to protect you." But as she revealed the keys, a sudden shift rushed through the air. Victor felt it, an electric connection. Memories flooded back, fragments of conversations he couldn't place. Figures in black suits, hushed voices, decisions made without him. In that haunting moment, a horrifying thought crossed his mind. "You used me." The air shifted again, tension snapping like a taut wire. "No, Victor, it was never about using you," Mia cried, desperation coloring her words. But it was too late. The truth began to unravel. "Then what is this?" Victor pointed at the glistening keys. Oiling emotion coursed through him. He couldn't breathe. Around him, the crowd held its collective breath, whispers weaving a tapestry of shock. Suddenly, with a flash, the device sputtered, releasing a final burst of energy. As the smoke cleared, the crowd gasped, and Victor staggered back. Because there stood Daniel, but not as he remembered. The darkness faded away, revealing a shockingly familiar visage. A twisted reflection of himself looked back, eyes filled with shadowy secrets. It was as if his brother had become the very embodiment of everything Victor feared. "Victor," Daniel's voice softened, but there was an edge. "I have to tell you what's really at stake." And just like that, the room exploded into chaos again, reality unraveling as Victor stared at the impossible. Everything they'd ever known was about to change in a way he never imagined. The lines between love, betrayal, and identity had blurred, and nothing would be the same again. Victor felt a jolt deep in his chest. The room pulsed with fear, and he could hardly process what was real. The younger version of himself stood there, eyes full of secrets that threatened to drown him. Daniel's presence felt like a storm, dark and foreboding. "Victor," he began again, a hint of desperation weaving through his words. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A sharp crack echoed through the hall, an electric tension filling the air. The ballroom doors erupted open once more, and a gust of wind rushed in, chilling everyone to their core. The crowd gasped and fell silent, all eyes darting to the entrance. A figure stepped in, cloaked in darkness, moving like smoke through the chaos. The identity was unmistakable. Victor's heart dropped into the pit of his stomach. "It can't be," he whispered, dread flooding his senses. The figure sidestepped into the light, revealing a familiar face that twisted Victor's reality. "Surprise!" came the hauntingly familiar voice, filled with calculated malice. It was his mother, the woman he thought lost to time. "Did you really think you could outsmart me?" "Mom?" Victor's voice shattered, disbelief mingling with a surge of anger. "You were gone! We thought you were dead!" "I was dead, Victor, to the world," she replied coldly, her eyes glinting with a calculating humor. "But I've been watching you. You think this is your story? No, darling, it was always mine." The crowd buzzed, whispers of shock rippling through the air. Luna looked between Victor and his mother, confusion clouding her features. "This isn't possible," she breathed, her pulse racing. "But it is," Victor's mother continued, stepping closer, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "You've played like a puppet in a dangerous game. Everything, your father, your brother, your love for this girl, all part of my plan." "No, it can't be true," Victor shouted, anger and heartbreak crashing like waves. "You used us. You tore our family apart." The boldness in her expression flickered with amusement. "You're naive, Victor. Every choice I made, every manipulation, was to protect you from the filth that surrounds us. And now you'll thank me." Victor felt sweat prickling at his palms. Thank you for what? For lying? For tearing me apart? Rage boiled beneath his skin. "Mom, you don't control me," he spat. But the defiance felt fragile, like a candle in a storm. She only smiled, that twisted smile that made his gut churn. "Oh, but I do. You have something they want, and they're ready to move now, all of them. I did this for you, Victor, to keep you safe. You are the key to everything." "What are you talking about?" he demanded, confusion spiraling once again. "Your experiments," his mother replied, gaze fierce. "You're unlike anyone else, Victor. You have the ability to stitch our broken world back together, or shatter it completely." And just like that, his world tilted again. "What do you mean?" The lump in his throat tightened, heart racing with fear. Before she could respond, another crack sounded, and the ground shook violently beneath them. Dust and debris rained down, panic flaring as people stumbled. Victor felt the adrenaline surge through his veins as he grabbed Luna's hand tightly. "We have to get out of here." "Victor!" Luna cried, eyes wide with terror. But before he could move, his mother raised her hand, silencing the room. "It's too late. They're here." As the crowd gasped, the main entrance burst open again, revealing a group of figures clad in dark suits. Their faces shielded, they moved like shadows, relentless and cold. "Victor Langston," one called, voice dripping with authority. "Come with us." The icy grip of dread wrapped around Victor. This was not just a matter of family betrayal anymore. This was war. Just as fear overwhelmed him, he noticed the glint of something in his mother's hand, an object that sparkled wickedly in the light, a piece of his shattered life. "Victor, look!" a voice broke through, and Daniel reached out, desperation flaring in his eyes. "It's not too late, trust me." But trust felt like a fragile thread. The truth around him unraveled like a tangled web, and in that moment, as the shadows closed in, Victor realized he was trapped in a game designed by his family, and the real battle for his life had just begun. Victor's mind raced as shadows loomed closer. His mother's voice dripped with poison, coaxing him back into the darkness that had gripped his life. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Luna's hand in his, grounding him. As chaos swirled around them, he stared deeply into her eyes, determination igniting a spark in his chest. "No more lies," he shouted, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking. "I won't let you control me anymore." Luna's grip tightened, and her courage coursed through him. The darkness that had dominated his life began to crack. The presence of danger grew, but alongside it came an urge to fight back, to reclaim what was his. "Victor, you have to choose," Daniel pleaded, pushing through the smoke hanging around them. Victor's heart pounded. The stakes had never been this high. "Choose?" he scoffed. "You think I'll let you decide my fate? It's my life." With a sudden burst of resolve, Victor stepped forward, facing his mother. "You've controlled everyone for too long. You think you can just pull the strings and we'll dance to your tune? No, not anymore." The tension in the room thickened, gasps echoing off the walls. Luna looked at him, eyes wide, but glimmering with fierce loyalty. This felt real. This felt powerful. "Victor." His mother's voice softened for a fleeting second, a sly smile creeping back. "You think you can face them? They won't stop." "Enough!" he roared. In that moment, he realized that he was more than just a pawn in someone else's game. He was more than the family legacy weighing him down. The room shook again, but this time it felt liberating, like an awakening. "You won't take her from me," he declared, taking a protective stance beside Luna. "We'll fight together." The crowd around them stirred, murmurs traveling like ripples on a pond. Possibilities hung in the air like scattered fireworks, each one potent and alive. "Victor." A soft voice cut through the pandemonium. It was Elena, stepping closer with urgency. "You need to trust me. Remember the keys. There's more to discover." "More?" he echoed, memories rushing back, as if the pieces were finally falling into place. The horrible truth began knitting together, revealing glimmers of hope amidst despair. Just as the dark figures advanced, Victor felt a surge of adrenaline. If he was indeed the key, he had to unlock the power within him. "Let's end this, together. Now!" Daniel shouted, pushing past the swirl of uncertainty, raising the device they'd once feared. It sparked with energy, reflecting the collective determination burning bright. "Let's take control of our destiny." With one powerful thrust, Daniel activated the device. A wave of light surged through the room, washing over everyone with dizzying brightness. The darkness retreated, leaving only determination in its wake. Victor held Luna's hand tightly, feeling an unbreakable bond sparking between them. In that moment, he knew he was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. "You don't own me," he shouted at his mother, whose confidence faltered, eyes wide with disbelief. The dark figures hesitated, confusion rippling through them. They hadn't expected resistance, hadn't seen Victor stand tall and strong. As the light illuminated their figures, Victor felt renewed strength surging through him. The truth was finally dancing in his veins. This is our time. But just as hope filled the thick air, a deafening noise erupted, splitting the room in two once more. Victor braced himself, ready to fight, heart pounding fiercely. And as the dust began to settle around them, a real choice loomed. Was it finally over? Did they have the power to alter their fates? Would the darkness return? Victor locked eyes with Luna, a spark of something fierce and unyielding flickering within. They were ready to discover what awaited them on this treacherous path. But just then, time felt like it stood still. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning, shrouded in uncertainty and courage. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the explosive new journeys waiting ahead. Smash that like button now to show your support for the stories that keep you on the edge. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait 1 second more to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know about this mind-blowing finale. Only true fans understand the power of connecting and supporting each other. Let's